The silent room. Corporal Darren Vex didn't expect anything strange when he stepped into the old station. His team had explored dozens of abandoned buildings before. This one was supposed to be the same. Silent, broken, forgotten. The building stood alone on the dark side of planet Era 7. The roof was cracked and the outside walls were covered in black dust. A cold wind blew through the cracks. The base had been dead for over 10 years. No power, no signal, no life, or so they thought. Darren walked slowly through the dark hallway, his flashlight flickering over the walls. Rusted doors lined both sides. He saw old signs written in faded alien and human languages. Storage room 4, medical bay, central lab, all empty. But at the end of the hall, there was one door that stood out. No label, no handle, just smooth metal, cold and still. Private. Entry, Darren muttered. He pressed his palm against it. Nothing happened. Then, click. The door opened. Inside was pure silence. No furniture, no lights, no sound, only dust on the floor and something else. In the far corner of the room sat a small figure, still, barefoot, arms, around her knees, head down. A girl, alien. Darren froze. His hand reached for his weapon but stopped. The girl didn't move. She didn't even look at him. Her skin was pale gray, almost silver, and her white hair fell over her face like a curtain. She wore nothing except a torn cloth over her shoulders. Her body was thin, too thin, as if she hadn't eaten in weeks. He stepped closer. Still nothing. No reaction, no fear, no words. He could hear only one sound now, his own breathing. Then just as he reached the middle of the room, the girl raised her head. Her eyes were glowing faintly, not red, not yellow, but soft, tired violet. She looked at him, not with hate, not with fear, with confusion, as if she didn't know whether he was real. And then she spoke, voice quiet, like dust. Am I still real? Darren didn't know how to answer. He stood there stunned. Who are you? He asked. No reply. He took off his helmet and knelt down slowly. It's okay, he said gently. I'm not here to hurt you. She blinked, slowly, as if his words took time to reach her mind. Then she looked around the room. Nothing. No light, no color, no warmth, just a circle, lightly scratched into the metal floor beneath her. A single symbol, perfect, repeated over and over, like she had spent years drawing it. Again and again. Back at the camp, his radio crackled. Vex? You find anything? Darren pressed his earpiece. I found someone. A pause. Repeat that. I found a girl. Another long silence. That's impossible. The base was sealed for over a decade. She's here, Darren said quietly, still staring into the girl's glowing eyes. She's real, and she has nothing. No food, no tech, not even her name. The next few minutes moved quickly. Medical bots arrived. The girl didn't fight. She didn't cry. She just followed Darren like a shadow, silent and calm. They scanned her body. No ID, no species match, not even readable brain patterns. She's not on any known registry, said the medic. It's like she doesn't exist. But Darren already knew that. He could feel it. This girl had been forgotten by time itself. Later, alone in the camp's resting area, Darren looked through the old files of the station. No mention of a prisoner. No log of experiments. No rescue codes. Just one note, buried deep in corrupted data. One line, blinking over and over. If the room opens, she will remember. Darren stared at the screen, his heartbeat rising. What is she supposed to remember? He whispered. Back in the silent room, the girl lay on a bed for the first time in years. She stared at the ceiling, unmoving. But deep inside her, behind those glowing violet eyes, something had started to wake up. A word, a name, a shape, a voice that once whispered to her, You are not nothing. You are everything they fear. The girl with no name. The girl didn't speak again for 2 days. She sat quietly in the corner of the med bay, watching the walls like they might move. She didn't eat, didn't sleep, just stared, still and silent. No one could figure her out. Scanners failed. Blood samples turned blank. Even the base AI, which could speak over 3,000 alien languages, responded with only one word: unknown. Darren watched her from across the room. Every time someone else came near her, she turned her face away. But when he stepped forward, she looked at him, directly, not in fear, not in anger, but with a quiet understanding, like she remembered him, even though they had never met. Dr. Relin, the lead xenobiologist on the team, pulled Darren aside. She shouldn't be alive, the doctor said. No food, no records, no ID. It's like she appeared from nothing. Darren frowned. Or like she was erased. Relin paused. Erased? People don't just vanish, Darren said. If she's not in any system, then someone wanted it that way. That night, Darren brought a blanket and placed it beside her. She didn't move. He set down a ration bar and a flask of water. Still nothing. He sighed and turned to leave. But then her voice, soft and broken, spoke behind him. Cold. Darren turned around. You're cold? She nodded once. Just once. He gently wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. She held it tightly like it was the first real thing she'd ever touched. Then she looked up at him and said, You're warm. By the next day, she followed Darren with her eyes. Then her head, then her footsteps. She would not walk unless he did. She would not sit unless he did. It was as if something in her recognized him, not by face, but by feeling. On day 4, she began to draw. She used her finger on the floor. No pen. No tools. Just dust. The same symbol she had drawn in the room where he found her. A circle within a circle, surrounded by 5 dots. Over and over again. When Darren asked what it meant, she tilted her head and said softly, It's where I'm from, Doctor. Relin was confused. From where? He asked. The girl looked at him and repeated a little firmer. There. She pointed to the symbol. You mean the drawing? She nodded. That's not a place, Relin muttered. That's nothing. The girl looked hurt. She turned her face to the wall and didn't speak again that day. Later, Darren sat next to her quietly. He didn't ask questions. He just waited. After a while, she whispered, Do I have a name? Darren looked at her gently. Do you remember one? She shook her head. I think they took it. Darren thought for a moment. How about we give you one? Something to start new. She looked unsure, but then said, If it's from you. Yes, Darren smiled. Solari. It means light after darkness. She repeated it softly. Solari. Then again, stronger. I am Solari. Something changed in her eyes, from emptiness to spark. She looked at her hand, touched her chest, and whispered the name like a secret she wanted to protect. But peace didn't last long. That night, alarms went off. The room filled with static. The power in the base flickered, lights dimming, systems rebooting. Solari stood in the center of the hallway, staring at the ceiling, and all around her. Machines started reacting, screens turned on without touch, metal doors unlocked, security drones froze mid-air. Darren rushed to her side. Solari, what's happening? She looked at him with glowing eyes. I remember, she whispered, but only pieces. What do you remember? He asked. She stepped closer and placed her hand gently over his heart. You. Your voice. Your warmth. You brought me back. Before Darren could respond, Dr. Relin shouted from the control room. Darren. You need to see this. He ran in and looked at the screen. It was the same symbol Solari kept drawing. A perfect match. But this wasn't drawn in dust. It was from a classified Earth file. Label: Black Room Protocol. Locked subject access. Denied. Threat level: absolute. Darren's blood turned cold. He looked at Solari. She stood quietly, staring at the symbol. And then she said something that sent a chill through every person in the room. They built me. Then they buried me. But now, remember who I was. The one she remembers. The air inside the base was heavy. Solari hadn't moved in hours. She sat near the observation window, staring at the stars like they were trying to speak to her. Darren stood nearby, watching her. He didn't know what worried him more, the silence or what might come after it. She had remembered something, and it had changed everything. Dr. Rellin was pacing in the lab. We found her symbol in top-secret Earth files. Files not even I can access, he said. The Black Room Protocol wasn't just some old program, it was erased from history. Why? Darren asked. Because whatever they put in that room was never meant to wake up. Solari finally turned her head. Her violet eyes were glowing. Again, but softly this time, she whispered something, too quiet to hear. What did you say? Darren asked gently, kneeling beside her. Solari looked into his eyes, then said it again, more clearly. But it wasn't in English. It was in a strange, ancient language, words that sounded like a song, or a memory. Darren blinked, because somehow he understood. You said, "You found me before." He translated aloud. Solari's breath caught. She moved closer. You know my voice, she whispered in her alien tongue. Even after time was torn. Darren sat frozen. I've never heard this language before, he said. But I know what you're saying. Solari reached forward and placed her hand on his cheek. You remembered me, she whispered. Even when I forgot myself. Dr. Rellin watched from the side, confused. What is she saying? He asked. Darren stood slowly. She knows me, he said. From before. Before what? I don't know, Darren said. But it feels old, like we were connected long ago, like something kept us apart. That night Darren had dreams, strange ones. He saw white rooms with no walls. He saw himself standing over a glowing cradle, where Solari, smaller, weaker, was locked behind glass. He heard voices. Cold, robotic. She cannot remember. Seal the bond. Erase the link. Then fire. Then silence. He woke up sweating, and Solari was standing by his bed. You saw it too, she whispered. He nodded slowly. What? Were we? Solari sat beside him. We were made to test love in a place without it. You were the subject, I was the trigger. In the lab, Rellin ran another scan on Solari's brain. It lit up like a star map. The neural activity is beyond anything we've ever recorded, he said. She's not using 10% of her brain like humans. She's using something else. Like memory exists in her skin, her blood, her bones. He pointed to the screen. This area here, it's glowing when she looks at Darren. Why? Someone asked. Because she doesn't just remember him, Rellin whispered. She resonates with him. Over the next few days, Solari began to speak more. Only to Darren. She didn't trust anyone else. She told him of the Black Room, an ancient experiment hidden beneath the old colonies. It wasn't meant for science, it was a vault, built to erase dangerous connections. They were afraid of feelings, she said. Afraid that love could destroy the order they built. They locked me away, because I remembered you. Darren sat with her beneath the nightlights of the base's greenhouse dome. She stared up at the stars again. They thought nothing would survive that room, she said. But you did, Darren replied. Solari turned her head slowly. So did you. He swallowed hard. I think I was supposed to find you. She nodded. I waited for you, she whispered. In nothingness. For years. In silence. The only thing I had was your name. Darren blinked. But I never told you my name. She looked him in the eyes. You did. Long ago. Before they broke us. The Black Room Project. For the first time, Solari entered the lab without fear. She no longer avoided the others. She no longer looked lost. Because now, she remembered something, not everything, but enough. Darren walked beside her. She didn't need to speak. He could feel what she felt, like a quiet signal between them always running. Dr. Relin had finally cracked the hidden files. Deep within Earth's forgotten archives, under heavy encryption, was a file marked Black. Room Project, Failed Archive, 017, Status Abandoned Reason, Memory Instability, Emotional Contamination, Subject, Name, Unknown, Resonance Level, Maximum. He opened it in silence. A projection filled the lab. Holograms of documents, photos, video clips. Darren saw it first. A glass chamber. Inside it, Solari, younger, smaller. Eyes closed. Wires attached to her head. Scientists in white suits spoke without emotion. She is the perfect null point. No culture, no family, no past. But the subject's heart still responds to her presence. Another voice. Terminate bond. Wipe cycle. Begin again. The video glitched. Then showed another file. Subject 6. It was Darren. Darren's heart sank. They used us. Relan nodded. They wanted to see what happened when two minds, totally different, were emotionally linked. But why? Darren asked. To learn if love could exist in nothing, Solari whispered. Everyone looked at her. They put me in the Black Room, she said. A place without sound, without memory, without time. She pointed to the circle symbol she always drew. This isn't art. It's the map of the room. She drew her finger across the air slowly, forming 5 glowing dots around the circle. These are the locks, 5 failsafes, 5 cycles. Relin frowned. Cycles? Every time I remembered Darren, they erased me, she said. 5 times. Darren blinked. But how am I still connected to you? Solari looked at him. Because you never let go. The temperature in the room dropped. Every screen turned black. Then, one by one, a message appeared. Cycle 6 detected. Resonance link stable. Black room opening, an alarm screamed. The base began to shake, outside. The old station, the place where Darren had first found her, lit up like a beacon. A giant underground gate was opening. Solari grabbed Darren's hand. They never meant for us to survive this far, she said. The final lock is me. In the command room, Relin was panicking. That station's power core was dead for years, now it's glowing, something still active underneath it. What is it? An officer asked. Solari answered. It's not a machine. It's a memory core. A prison. For what? Darren asked. Solari looked down. For everything they wanted to forget. Darren and Solari returned to the ruins. The same room, now glowing, softly with light that came from the floor itself. As they stepped inside, voices echoed. Not physical, not real. Memories. You are not meant to feel. Emotion corrupts the system. Erase, reset, repeat. Solari moved to the center and placed her palm on the circle. The lights shifted. The 5 glowing dots blinked red, then yellow, then white. Then, silence. The air was still. The final layer of the Black Room was open. Inside, a new message played in an ancient voice. Resonance stabilized. Subject reconnected. Emotion cannot be deleted. The experiment has failed. Solari fell to her knees. Darren caught her. She looked at him, tears forming for the first time. They tried to erase me, Darren. But every time they did, your memory reached me again. It brought me back. He pulled her close. You don't have to remember alone anymore. Her eyes began to glow. A soft pulse echoed from her chest, matching his heartbeat exactly. Suddenly, Dr. Rellen's voice came through the comm. "Darren, you need to get out. That room, it's not just a prison. It's a signal tower." "What do you mean?" Darren asked. "It's broadcasting across space. Something's coming. Something old. Something that remembers her." Solari stood slowly, energy around her, body rising. "I know," she said. "They made me forget to hide me from them." "From who?" Darren asked. She stared into the stars beyond the open ceiling. The ones who made the black room. The girl who wasn't supposed to exist. The sky above Era 7 changed color. It wasn't natural. It wasn't beautiful. It was wrong. A deep, glowing scar stretched across the stars, long and bright like a crack in space. Something ancient had seen. The signal from the black room, and now it was coming. Inside the ruined station, Solari stood in the center of the circle, eyes closed, body glowing with pulsing light. The wind around her howled without sound. The 5 glowing dots now floated in the air, spinning slowly around her head like tiny stars. Darren stood close, shielding her from falling dust. He wasn't scared for himself. He was scared for her. "What's coming?" he asked quietly. Solari opened her eyes. "They were my creators," she said. "But not like parents. They made me as a test." "A test for what?" She looked down at her hands. "To see if something like me could feel." Dr. Rellen's voice came over the radio from the base. "Darren, multiple ships approaching from deep space. They're not registered. Not Zarkari, not Sindrith, not human." He paused. "They're not moving like ships. They're alive." Solari stepped forward. "They are mind builders," she said. "They don't use metal. They build thought into shape, memory into matter." "Why did they make you?" Darren asked. "To find out if emotion weakens creation," she said. "They wanted to prove love is a virus. That feeling breaks systems. That attachment is failure." Her voice grew quiet. "They made me empty, cold, alone, then put you in the same void, to see if connection would grow." Darren swallowed hard. "And it did." Solari nodded. "They didn't expect that." The sky turned crimson. 5 massive objects entered orbit. They had no engines, no wings, no lights, just floating structures of twisting silver bones, like cages holding storms. Their surface shifted like water. They were not ships. They were thoughts, shaped by will. The memory beings had come. Everyone on the base watched in silence as the sky trembled. Solari and Darren stood at the heart of the black room, where the signal had been sent. The ancient machines around them buzzed, reacting to the presence above. A voice echoed, not in sound but in thought. "Experiment 07. You have reconnected." Solari trembled. "They've found me." The voice continued. "The test is over. Termination required." Darren stepped in front of her. "No." The air shifted. "Human subject. Your bond has caused deviation. You will be deleted first." Solari's glow brightened. "No," she whispered. "You will not touch him." The 5 glowing dots around her spun faster. She stepped forward. Each footstep changed the room. Walls glowed, air shimmered. The circle on the floor began rising upward into a dome of energy. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was activating. "You said I was the failure," she spoke aloud. "You said emotion was weakness, but you were wrong." The sky outside cracked with thunderless light. She raised both hands. Darren stood behind her, watching her become something more than a memory. "You made me to feel nothing," Solari said. "But I found him. I remembered him. And I remembered myself." The mind beings moved closer. They reached with arms made of thought. But this time, they were the ones who hesitated, because what they saw was not weakness, it was will. Solari closed her eyes. I am not your silence. I am not your shadow. She touched the ground with both hands. The circle vanished. The 5 dots collapsed into her chest. Then she opened her eyes. They were no longer violet. They were pure white. A wave of energy spread out across the station, the sky, the ships, and even space itself. The mind beings froze. Their structures shook. Their thoughts became broken. And then, one by one, they disappeared. Not destroyed. Not killed, forgotten. Silence returned. Real silence. For the first time, peaceful. Solari dropped to her knees. Her body glowed gently. Darren ran to her, holding her before she fell. You did it, he said. You stopped them. She looked up at him weakly. No, she whispered. We did. Later, the Earth Council sent a message to the Era 7 team. Who was she? Darren replied with just one line. The girl who wasn't supposed to exist, but did. The door of nothingness. Solari had changed. Her body no longer shimmered with fear, but with calm light. She sat quietly in the ruins of the old station, surrounded by broken machines and empty halls, but she wasn't empty anymore. She was awake. Whole. Darren sat beside her. He didn't ask questions. He just stayed close. Because after everything they had been through, silence, memory, betrayal, and almost being erased, what mattered most now was stillness. Dr. Relin arrived with a small team. They walked through the quiet halls carefully, like stepping through a sacred space. There's something we missed, Relin said. Something deeper. Below this floor. Darren helped Solari to her feet. She looked down. I can feel it, she said softly. It's still calling. They followed her deeper underground, down a stairwell blocked by rubble, past walls marked with strange language, half machine, half memory. At the bottom they reached a giant circular door. No lights, no buttons, no writing, just black metal, smooth and silent like the night sky. The door of nothingness, Solari whispered. Darren frowned. What's behind it? She stepped forward, slowly placing her palm on the cold surface. The truth. A soft vibration filled the air. The door didn't slide open. It melted, as if space itself was shifting. And behind it was not a room, not a machine, not a place, but a field of stars. They weren't in space. They were inside memory. A floating field where time didn't move, where every step felt like walking through a dream. Light swirled around them, forming images. Moments. From the past and some from the future. Solari walked forward slowly, glowing softly. These are all the things the galaxy tried to forget, she said. Lost people. Lost feelings. Lost truths. Darren looked around. Why show us this now? Solari turned to him. Because our story is not the first, but it may be the last. One by one, floating lights came close. Visions of others who were erased, alien children crying behind glass. Lovers torn apart by memory locks, scientists screaming as their minds were rewritten. Darren clenched his fists. They buried all of them. Solari nodded. But they couldn't bury what we became. Then the light shifted. A new vision appeared. It was Earth, but broken, war-torn, dark. In the vision, ships fell from the sky. People ran in fear, and in the middle stood a future version of Darren, alone, without Solari. Darren stepped back. What is this? Solari's voice was soft. The path you'll walk. If I vanish again. The stars around her flickered. Memory is fragile, she said. If I go back into the dark, the connection fades. You'll forget. And when that happens, Earth forgets too, and the cycle begins again. He stepped closer. I won't forget you. She looked at him with sadness. You've said that before. Suddenly the vision changed again. A new possibility appeared. Earth, glowing. Peace. Alien and human children learning side by side. A statue of Solari, hand in hand with Darren. Solari looked away. I'm afraid of that one too. Why? He asked. Because I don't know if I deserve it. Darren stepped forward. He took her hand. You were made to be forgotten, but now the galaxy remembers. That means you don't just deserve peace. He squeezed gently. You are peace. The field of stars pulsed. The door behind them closed, not to trap them, to protect them. The truth was now open. The galaxy couldn't erase it again. As they walked back to the surface, Solari spoke one last thing. There was one more purpose I was given. Darren looked at her. What was it? She smiled gently. To remind humanity that emotion is not weakness. She paused. It's the strongest thing in the universe. The girl who chose to stay. The stars were quiet now. The sky above R7 had returned to normal. No strange ships, no glowing cracks, no voices from the past. Only peace. Solari stood outside the ruins of the Black Room, her white eyes fading back to violet. Her glow had softened. The wind moved gently through her silver hair. She was no longer a mystery. She was no longer forgotten. Darren stood beside her, silent. He didn't speak. Not because he had no words, but because he knew this moment was too big for them. She had faced the ones who made her. She had seen what came before, and now she had to decide what came next. Dr. Reelan and the others watched from a distance. Soldiers, scientists, and command officers gathered, waiting to hear what Solari would do. Would she stay, or would she return to the field of stars, the realm where forgotten memories sleep? Solari turned to Darren, her voice soft. I was made to disappear, she said, to break when connection formed, to vanish before love became real. He nodded. But you didn't. She looked into his eyes. No. Because of you. I remembered. The Earth Council had sent a ship to bring her to the core planet, a symbol of peace and new beginnings. But no one forced her. No one ordered her. It was her choice. And in the quiet of that morning, Solari made it. She walked forward, then turned, to the crowd. I was once nothing, she said. Not because I chose to be, but because I was made that way. She looked at the officers, the scientists, the strangers. But then, I found someone who saw more than nothing. He saw a person. And that made me real. She turned to Darren and smiled. I will not return to the dark. She raised her voice just enough to carry across the camp. I choose to stay. Applause didn't come immediately, because this wasn't a victory. This was something more sacred. Everyone simply stood in quiet respect, watching the girl who was never supposed to exist claim her life. Weeks passed. Solari became Earth's first ambassador for interspecies emotional development. Not war, not science, memory, healing, peace. She traveled to planets where broken people lived. Those who lost someone. Those erased by systems. Those who felt like they didn't matter. She sat with them and said softly, I once had nothing too, but someone saw me. Darren stayed by her side, not as her protector, but as her equal. The universe learned quickly who he was. The man who remembered. The man who chose not to run when others did. The one who stepped into an empty room and found a soul waiting to be known. 1 year later, a statue was placed on Era 7 at the site of the old station. It didn't show war or power. It showed two figures, standing together, holding hands. No weapons, no thrones. Just two beings, facing the sky. The plaque read, She was not erased, he was not afraid. And because of that, we remember. In one small village on a distant moon, alien children gathered around a fire. An old woman told the story, her eyes glowing with memory. She was a girl with no name, no past, no voice. But one man saw her, even in silence. And when the universe, Tried to delete her. She smiled. He said no. A small child looked up and asked, "Did they stay together?" The old woman nodded. Yes, because real memory is not written in systems. She touched her chest. It lives here, in a quiet garden on Earth far from crowds and cameras. Solari and Darren sat under a tree. No glow, no symbols, just peace. Darren looked at her. Do you ever wonder what we could have been, if they hadn't put us in the black room? Solari smiled. No, I wonder what we became because they did. He reached for her hand. She held it tightly and whispered one final line. I was created to be alone, but you made me whole.